This is the Para Cave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Parramatta Leagues Club, home of the Eels, and also home of Jack's Pale Ale.
Welcome to another episode of the Para Cave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Para Cave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Para Cave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and it is round number 19 in the NRL. Getting down to the business end of the season already. Only, I think it's round 27 is the last round. So what's that? 8 rounds to go. 3 teams having the bye this weekend. Canberra, they get their second bye of the year. The Rabbitohs and also Manly have a bye as well. So 6 games this weekend, and it all starts on Friday night at Shark Park in front of the Sharks and the Dolphins at Sharks Stadium. I guess is that the name now? Shark Stadium. Okay, that's another new name for Shark Park. What else have we had? Caltex Field, Endeavour Field. Yeah, there was a rubbish company at one stage. Anyway, Shark Stadium, Sydney. Okay, there we go. Geez, I'm waffling on a little bit. Anyway, it is the Sharks taking on the Dolphins. And look, just the one change to the Sharks side that lost to the Storm. They had the bye last week. Daniel Atkinson coming onto the bench. Billy Burns goes out. Unfortunately, though, for the Dolphins, Cody Nikorima, he's out for a few weeks with a hamstring injury. Sean O'Sullivan, he returns to the side in the number 6 jersey. He last played against the Roosters. Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow has been named at fullback after backing up after Origin 3, only a couple of days after that one. He has been named there. There could be a change, you never know, but we'll just have to see what happens there. But interesting game this will be. The Sharks, they haven't been performing the best of late, and they are under a little bit of pressure. 2 straight losses, a win against the Dragons, and also 2 losses before that as well. So only 1 out of their last 5. You could say that the Dolphins, on the other hand, are the form team of the competition. Have a listen to these results. Their last 5 games. They beat the Rabbitohs 50 points to 28. They lost, unfortunately, to the Knights 26 points to 20. They beat the Cowboys 58 points to 4. They beat the Dragons 56 points to 6. And beat the Bulldogs 44 points to 8. So, look, they are the form team of the competition. The Dolphins do have a good record against the Sharks as well, having won their 2 previous encounters as well. So, are the Dolphins a little bit of a bogey side for the Sharks, or will it be third time lucky for the Sharks in this game? Look, I'm going to tip the Sharks. I think, look, they are at home. They don't have anyone backing up from Origin. It is a big game for them. They need to get back on track and get a victory to get their season back on track. They sit in 10th spot on the ladder on 20 points. So this is a game that they will want to win. Obviously, the Dolphins are also on 20 points as well. So if the Sharks win, they'll leapfrog the Dolphins for now. And look, I think the loss of Cody Nikorima is a massive loss for the Dolphins. He's been playing some really good footy this season. Isaiah Katoa, though, at halfback, he is one to watch. Obviously, Herbie Farnworth as well in the centre position, and also Hammer as well, backing up from Origin. So, look, big game. I think the Sharks will get it done. The next game is on Saturday at 3 p.m. It is up at McDonald Jones Stadium, obviously Newcastle's home ground, and they are taking on the Melbourne Storm in what sees as a big game. Kalen Ponga is obviously out for the season, so Fletcher Hunt comes into the side as fullback. Greg Marzu returns from an arm injury, and James Schiller goes back to the reserves. And also, good news for you Knights fans, Leo Thompson is back from suspension, so Tyson Frizzell, the experienced Tyson Frizzell, reverts back to lock. Phoenix Crossland goes to hooker, Jaden Brayley to the bench. Look, Ryan Pappenhausen for the Storm, he is back. He was a late withdrawal last week. Nick Meaney returns to the centre. Grant Anderson pushes back to the wing. Look, there has been all the Origin players have been named on an extended bench. Trent Liero, Cameron Munster, Harry Grant. But Big Stefano Utukumanu has been named on the bench there. So, look, we may see a few changes there closer to game day. Once again, our thoughts and prayers go out to Cameron Munster and his family. He will play in Origin against New South Wales on Wednesday night. Maybe after Origin, the club might give him some time off. So some family time there. We'll just have to wait and see. But he is named on the extended bench. So just have to wait and see on that one. Look, I think the Melbourne Storm will be just too strong for the Newcastle Knights. Newcastle do play better at home, but with the loss of Kalen Ponga, their best player, I think they will struggle. And the Melbourne Storm, well, hey, they are a machine. We have seen, even without their Origin players, they can still step it up and play. So, look, I think the Melbourne Storm, and I think those Origin players, maybe minus Cameron Munster, will play in this game. So I'm tipping the Melbourne Storm in that one. I'm going to say 13 plus in that one. The next game, 5:30pm, is at Cogra Jubilee Oval. It is the Dragons taking on the Roosters. In this game, the Dragons and the Roosters. Look, they obviously play on Anzac Day each and every year. This is the return bout. On Anzac Day this year, it was a massive win to the Roosters, 46 points to 18. So the Dragons will be looking for redemption. Val Holmes has been named to back up. Corey Allen goes to 18th man. A lot of injuries for the Dragons by the looks of it. Although they are coming back. So Luciano Leilua comes back from a quad injury. Hamish Stewart, concussion, are back on deck. Michael Milo reverts to the bench. So they've got some players back there. Big news for the Roosters. Sam Walker, he is back into the NRL side. Look, he returned from an ACL injury. But then unfortunately at training, I think it was, he had a thumb injury, so delayed his comeback even further. But he is named at number 7 for the Roosters. Billy Smith and Victor Radley also return as well. Nice big boost for the Rooster boys there. And also all of the Origin players have been named to back up as well. Rob Toyer, Connor Watson, Lindsay Collins, Angus Crichton, Spencer Leniu. The Dragons. Look, they almost got the Raiders last week, but 2 wins out of their last 5. The Roosters 3 out of their last 5. So, look, very similar. Very similar games there, stats as well. The Roosters have scored more points. They have conceded less. Look, I'm going to tip the Roosters in this one. Look, I just think they nearly got the Tigers last week. I think with the return of their Origin players, that strengthens them even better. Even though the Dragons did play good the Dragons did play good against the Raiders, who are the high-flying competition leaders at the moment. So I am going to tip the Roosters. I think it could be just 1-12, though. I'm going to tip them 1-12. So that's that one. The next game is 7:35 p.m. Cowboys versus the Bulldogs up at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. The Cowboys and the Bulldogs. So, tale of two stories here of these two sides, as the Cowboys have only won 1 out of their last 5. The Bulldogs 2 out of their last 5. So they did go down 8-6 to the Panthers, and then they were leading 16-0 against the Broncos last week and lost. So they will want to get back into their winning ways. A little bit of conversation about the Bulldogs, about where Lockie Galvin fits in, and Toby Sexton and Reid Marnie and all this and that. So look, Lachlan Galvin has been named at number 17, Reid Marnie 9. Matt Burton returns back to the 5'8". Toby Sexton is a halfback. Stephen Crichton comes back. Jake Kiraz comes back. Max King comes back. For the Cowboys, Ruben Cotter, Tom Dearden, Jeremiah Nanai and Reece Robson have all been named to back up. And will be monitored after the Origin game. Carl Lawton is back from suspension, so they've got a few back there. As I said, all the Bulldogs players have been named. Unfortunately, though, Marcelo Montoya is facing 6 weeks out with a neck injury, so tough one there for Marcelo Montoya, who's been playing some pretty good footy, scoring some tries. So, look, I think the Cowboys, they are just struggling. Even though they do play better at home, I think the Bulldogs, they can get this victory, and I think they will do it 13+. I think the last 2 weeks, they'll be really disappointed. I think they can put a score on the Cowboys here. Although, as I said, the Cowboys, they are a different side at home. You just don't know what's going to happen there. First time this year that they have played. The Cowboys got the victory last year. They beat the Bulldogs twice last year. One was a smashing, one was a close game. But I think the Bulldogs will get this one. Over to Sunday football, and 2 p.m. Australian time, 4 p.m. New Zealand time sees the Warriors take on the West Tigers. West Tigers having that win over the Sydney Roosters last week. That was a great game to watch, actually. I thought the Roosters were going to jag it at the end, but they weren't able to do it. The Tigers, they held on. Great to see them get a win, snap a 6-game losing streak. Look, they have met this season already. It was a 26 points to 24 win to the Warriors on that occasion. So 1 win out of the last 5 for the Tigers, 2 out of the last 5 for the Warriors. The Warriors, though, they have lost Luke Metcalf, their halfback, for the season with a knee injury. That is no good at all. Chance Nickel-Clockstar is also missing with a knee injury. Sertain Tuapiki lines up at fullback. His first game since round number 10. And Tanner Boyd makes his, I think it's club debut for the Warriors. He goes into the halfback spot. And Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, DWZ, he comes back onto the wing for the Warriors. Great hairstyle, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. Kurt Capel, he's named among the reserves. He will be monitored after the Origin game as well. Jerome Luai is looking to back up 4 days after Origin. So Adam Dewey goes back to the centres. Api Coruscant, big boost for the Tigers. He is back as well from concussion protocols. Tristan Hope goes to the bench. Jack Bird comes back on the bench as well after being a late withdrawal last week. Look, as good as the Tigers played last week, this would be a big test. As much as the Warriors are going to miss Obviously, they have had Mitchell Barnett out for a while now, but Luke Metcalf as well. I still think that the Warriors will get the job done over there in New Zealand. Tough road trip always to go to New Zealand and win a game of rugby league, especially in front of sold-out crowds. Look, the Tigers will do themselves proud, but I think the Warriors will get this one, and I think it'll just be 1-12. I think the Tigers showed last week that they do have some great performers in their team. The Whānau brothers, they all got over for a try last week, and Latu Whānau at halfback. What a great player he is, turning out to be. So their hopes will be on him as well. So I am going to tip the Warriors, and it will be 1-12, I think, for that one. The Battle of the West, that is the next game, Sunday, 4:05 p.m. at CommBank Stadium. The Battle of the West. I love these games. My favourite games of the season. Now, some interesting changes for the Parramatta side. Obviously, Talon De Silva, he's been named on the interchange bench. I thought he may have started the game, but he's been named on the bench. Charlie Geimer starts in front or in the place of Kilmer Tuolagi, who's suspended for 3 weeks. Sam Tuivati, he returns from a syndesmosis injury. Played New South Wales Cup last week. Great to have a bit of size back on the bench. Bailey Simonson is listed among the reserves. He returned the New South Wales Cup last week. So, look, an interesting side there. I think I potentially would have put Bailey into the centres, maybe put Jordan Samrani onto the bench potentially. I would have probably started Talon De Silva instead of Joey Lussick, because you still would have had that option of Dylan Walker, who is there as well. We have seen Jermaine Hopgood play a bit of dummy half at times this season. Joash Papali, I don't know why he is out of this side. I would have probably had him on the bench too somewhere. But he could have been the 14 or 15, I think. But yeah, interesting one there. For the Panthers, the 5 Origin stars have been named on an extended bench. And it has been Brad Schneider, who is the halfback, Dane Laurie, who is the fullback. Just a couple of names there. Tom Jenkins on the wing as well. Matt Eisenhuth as well. So it was basically the same sort of team that beat the Warriors a few weeks ago. The Panthers, they're making a late season charge. 4 out of their last 5 wins, including the 18-10 victory over Parramatta at the first time these two sides met. Parramatta, look, they have been playing better football in this part of the season. They just haven't got the wins, unfortunately. Lost to the Dragons. They had the bye last week. They lost to the Dragons the week before, 34 points to 20. Defeated the Titans, 36 points to 20. Went down to the Bulldogs and Panthers and had a win over the Sea Eagles. So, look, it's going to be... Penrith will go into the game as favourites. Look, I'm going to tip Parramatta. You know I'm going to tip Parramatta. I think it's just different. No matter where these two sides are on the ladder, the Panthers are in 6th position, the Parramatta Eels in 15th. It doesn't matter where they are on the ladder. It brings out the best of both sides, and I think we're going to see a cracking game on Sunday afternoon. I will be there. Say g'day if you see me. We'll talk some footy. We'll talk Parramatta. But yeah, go Para. I'm tipping them to get the victory. The last game, 6:15 p.m. The late game on Sunday sees 2 neighbours playing, 2 Queensland neighbours. The Titans taking on the Broncos at Seabus Super Stadium. So for the Titans, Jaden Campbell is back on deck at halfback. David Fafita, he's been named on the bench to return from an ankle injury. Big Tino Fasul Malawi and Mo Fadawaka have been named to back up as well. after the Origin game for the Broncos. Pat Carrigan, Payne Haas, Shibasaki are named to back up from Origin, as is Reece Walsh. He goes into the number 1 jersey. Selwyn Combo is the 18th player. Ben Hunt, he returns to the Broncos team at hooker, the number 9 position, after missing 6 games with a hamstring injury, so a good little boost for them. So, yeah, getting some troops back there. The Brisbane Broncos, look, they have been, they are going on a bit of a charge as well at the moment. The Brisbane Broncos, they had that great victory up against the Bulldogs last week, coming from 16-0 down to get the win 22 points to 18. And the Broncos have already beat the Titans this year at Suncorp Stadium, 44 points to 14, so they know what it takes to win. 4 out of their last 5 wins. They are making a charge now. They are in 5th spot on the ladder, 4 points behind the Warriors, 1 point ahead of the Panthers, so a crucial game for the Brisbane Broncos. The Gold Coast Titans, they had a win over the Sea Eagles a few weeks back now. 1 out of their last 5. They are still 17th on the ladder. They will want to try and get off the bottom. However, the Rabbitohs have a bye, so they'll get 2 points. The Eels play the Panthers, so hopefully the Eels get the victory there, and if they don't, not get smashed, because their for and against will be better than the Titans. So, look, I think the Broncos will get the win. I think they'll get the win comfortably in that one. So, my tips for this week are, we start off on the Friday. I'm going to tip the Sharks. I think they can break the duck egg of wins against the Dolphins. So I'm going to go the Sharks, the Storm, the Roosters, the Bulldogs, the Warriors, Eels, and Broncos. Now, I'm obviously going to go New South Wales to kick the week off as well. And now, just quickly, the round 2 of the NRLW competition is on as well this weekend. The West Tigers taking on the Bulldogs. I think the Bulldogs will get the win in that one. That game is at Campbelltown Sports Stadium, 7:45pm Thursday night. So there is some rugby league action on Thursday night. So if you can, tune into that one. The Bulldogs, they played magnificent in their debut game in the NRLW. So I'm going to go them. They sit in 5th position. I'm going to go for them to beat the Tigers, who went down to the Broncos last week. The next game on Saturday, none on the Friday night, so 12:45pm down at GIO Stadium in Canberra, sees the Raiders take on the Sharks. Now, this game was, the Raiders went down to the Dragons 36 points to 14. The Sharks, last year's grand finalists, went down by 2 points to the Parramatta Eels last week. So both last start losers. They will want to kickstart their season and get a victory. That is for sure. But look, I think Canberra, just down at home, might get the win and redeem themselves for last week. The Dragons and the Roosters, this will be a cracker of a game. Both last start winners. 3:15pm at Jubilee Stadium, so before the NRL game. The Roosters do have it over the Dragons, having beat them the last 2 times. The Dragons, as I said, they had a great win over the Canberra Raiders last week. The Premiers, they are looking pretty strong as well. I am going to tip the Roosters in that one to go 2 from 2 to start the season. The Cowboys and the Knights, This will be an interesting game as well up at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. The Cowboys, they surprised me. They got the victory over the Titans, I think it was last week. I think they can get the job done again. Newcastle, they've got a few ins, which is good for them, most notably Olivia Higgins back into that hooker position. So that will be a big in for them. The Cowboys go into this game favourites. They currently sit in 4th position on the ladder. The Knights in 8th. I will tip the Cowboys in that one. The next game, which I'll be keenly watching, is the Eels. They are over there in New Zealand, so before the NRL game again. So it's great to see these double headers being played at NRL venues as well. Value for money for the fans, which is great, and catch a bit of women's rugby league as well. 11:50 a.m. Australian time. The Eels in 6th position go into this game as favourites against the Warriors. The Warriors have got a lot of debutants. I think I heard they had 10 or so last weekend. RP Nichols, the captain and fullback, very experienced there. She will be one of the players that the Warriors will turn to. So this could be a danger game for Parramatta because it could be a little bit of the unknown in terms of what has happened or how these players play. The Warriors went down to the Roosters 30 points to 6. They were in that game for a little bit of the game, and then they sort of fell away. It was very quick try scored in the first half, late in that first half. The Eels got their season off to a great start, 18-16 winners over last year's grand finalists. So I am obviously going to tip Parramatta, but it will be a hard task to go over there to New Zealand to get the win, just like their male counterparts. The Titans and Broncos, they play 4:05 p.m. at Cbus Super Stadium. The 9th place Titans take on the first placed Broncos. Now, I think This will be a good game, but I think the Broncos, they will just be too strong. They put on a big score, 44 points to 4 last year. The year before that, it was only 17-16 to the Titans. So they've only played 4 times. It's 2 wins apiece. I think the Broncos will win and win convincingly in that one. So for the NRLW for round number 2, I will go the Bulldogs, Raiders, Roosters, Cowboys, Eels and Broncos. That is in the NRLW round number 2. Thank you very much for listening to this tipping podcast, proudly brought to you by Assure Strata Reports. Find them on Instagram, give them a follow, and also Buddy Oldman, Masters Boxer. Find him on Instagram as well, give him a follow as well. Champion people following the supporting the podcast by supplying the prizes for the tipping competition on the Para Cave podcast tipping competition, which is very close at the top. So give those guys a follow on the podcast, that on the Instagram. That would be most appreciated. Thank you very much for listening. Let me know if they are your tips as well, if you're going to follow mine. My tipping this year isn't the best, so you probably won't. But anyway, enjoy your footy over the weekend, both your men's and women's rugby league. Enjoy your State of Origin football. Go the Blues and go the Eels. The Para K podcast by the fan, for the fans. Go Para! Dylan, how you going, mate? Are you a Para K podcast listener?
I am, bro. It's a great podcast. Everyone tune in.
Go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave Podcast. See you next time.